So here we go. We just got episode 3 of Chainsaw Man, and much like the first episode, we get some serious Devil and Denji action towards the end of the episode. And also, we learn some crucial information about Devils and a little bit about Power's background in this one. So let's get right into the review here. So the episode starts out kind of in the aftermath of Power just completely destroying the sea cucumber devil and leaving a huge mess. And we see that Makima is actually on the scene now and seems pretty disappointed that Power made such a huge commotion and almost killed the devil hunter when she told her to, remain low key and try to stay out of the public eye. And, obviously she did like the exact opposite of that, right? But she's also kind of disappointed with Denji because he was supposed to kind of, be looking after her and making sure she doesn't get out of line, which leads Power to, immediately start blaming Denji for everything that happened, claiming that he even commanded her to do it. And of course, Denji calls her a flat out liar here because, obviously he did not say that, and they started getting into a little bit of a scuffle between themselves, kind of giving off like a brother-sister bickering vibe. But Makima interrupts them and says that she doesn't really care whose fault it is. She just basically says that she needs them to get their crap together because if they can't work together, then she's gonna have to do something about it. And she wonders if Power is fit for the job, which seems to, really scare her because she immediately becomes submissive and gives Makima her full attention. So Makima basically ends the conversation by telling Denji that he has to keep Power in line and Power has to follow directions in order for this to work. So later on, we see Denji getting a soda out of a vending machine and Power is just like gawking at the snacks in another machine when she's randomly approached by a cat. Now, assuming that she's like a super violent fiend, we would think that she would try to eat the cat or try to do something violent towards the cat, but she actually picks it up and starts petting it. And this is when she goes on to describe that she hates humans and she even hates devils, but for some reason she loves cats. They're basically the only animals, the only living things that she can really relate to and not feel hatred towards. And she also reveals that she had a pet cat called Meowie that was taken away from her by a devil, and before that she could retrieve it, she was recruited by Makima, and after that she kind of didn't have much freedom to do what she wanted and look for Meowie. And Denji does not care about any of this. He literally is only thinking about quote unquote copping a feel. And this is when Power comes up with the idea that if Denji was somehow able to retrieve her cat Meowie, she would let him again quote unquote cop a feel. And this makes Denji do a full 180 and gets all worked up about how evil this devil is and says, this damn devil, how could he do such a thing? I'm gonna kill the hell out of that devil. And just getting totally into it now that he has some kind of incentive to help her get this cat back. And I mean, Denji just continues to divert expectations when it comes to your usual shonen protagonist, where a normal protagonist would want to save this cat because it was an unjust thing and they want to save a defenseless animal from some evil devil. But no, Denji has very shallow motivations to this point. But hey, not to spoil too much for the future, but things start to change eventually. So if you don't like Denji now, just bear with me here. I'm sure he's eventually going to grow on you. So then we start cutting back and forth between Denji and Power, who are on this train, presumably on their way to get Meowie back, and also Makima, who is at public safety headquarters talking to some higher ups. So on the trolley, Power begins to explain to Denji that Denji's probably going to have to fight the devil by himself because as soon as the devil sees Power, he's immediately going to use Meowie as a shield of some sorts. But Denji, gets distracted, I guess I'll say, and he starts to talk about Pochita, saying that he used to have a pet dog that he can't pet anymore, but it's cool because he has him living within his heart. And Power is totally confused by this and says, look, if he's not here, then he's obviously dead. So it's foolish to say that Pochita is still living on in his heart, which obviously doesn't rub Denji the right way because he just thinks to himself that he's literally never going to be able to get along with this person or this fiend. So we then cut back to public safety where Makima is meeting with these higher ups, like I said, and they're kind of checking in on the status of Denji and Power and seeing how the whole experiment is going. Well, Makima basically just responds by saying that one is promising and the other one is interesting, and the interesting one is specifically referring to Denji. And all the higher ups have to say is that, she just needs to complete the experiment and she shouldn't get attached to, any of the devils that she has joined her squad. Well, we then cut to Makima and Aki driving down the street, and Aki asks her what's so interesting about Denji and why she cares so much about him when he's such a weak and useless person on face value. And then Makima goes on to explain a little bit more about the power system in the devil world that they live in. She pretty much goes on to explain that devil's powers are directly correlated to the fear of humans in the world. So the fear of that specific entity in the world that humans have gives a devil power. So she kind of gives an example where not that many people in the world are afraid of coffee, so obviously a coffee devil would not be very strong. But on the other hand, people are very afraid of getting hit by cars and obviously getting killed in an accident, so a car devil would more than likely be much more powerful. So she then goes on to explain that Denji can turn into a chainsaw devil, which she thinks is pretty damn interesting. But of course, Aki is a total party pooper and he still thinks that Denji is useless and his motivations are weak, so he's pretty much a detriment to their squad. Well, we then cut back to Denji and Power, who are walking seemingly through the middle of nowhere when they eventually approach this abandoned house. And after Power points out that the devil is in there, Denji starts to get kind of suspicious because he thought that Power said that she was not supposed to be around him once they approached the house because that would put Meowi's life in danger. So he brings this up to her and she's just like, oh yeah, I did say that, I totally forgot about that. So this obviously makes Denji super suspicious and they stop in their tracks. So internally, Denji immediately realizes that this kind of seems like a trap, so he goes in for a swing on her, but at the very same time, Power makes a mallet out of her blood and just pops Denji on the back of the head, knocking him out. And she goes on to say how humans are so stupid because he completely fell for that dumb lie. So after this major twist, we see Power carrying Denji into the house as she closes the door. And once inside, she tosses Denji over to this mysterious figure in the corner with red eyes. This devil is then revealed to be the Bat Devil, who kind of scolds Power for taking so long to get him some blood. And as he picks Denji up, he starts talking about his severed arm that was removed by humans, which is why he needed blood to kind of recover. So, Denji just responds by saying that, pretty much he does not give a shit. So the Bat Devil then grabs Denji and squeezes him like an orange and pours a ton of his blood into his mouth. And surprisingly, he is completely disgusted by this blood as he tosses Denji to the side and decides not to completely eat him because his blood is so disgusting. Either way, he's able to regrow his arm, and then he sets on a plan to eat some humans in the nearby city to cleanse his palate and get rid of this nasty taste. Well, before he leaves, Power tells him that, he has to hold up his end of the bargain. He has to give Meowi back because she brought him some blood. Well, the Bat Devil pretty much says, nah, like that blood was disgusting and I have to punish you for it. So he swallows Meowi whole, and this completely demoralizes Power because she goes into this flashback of her time prior to meeting Meowi, or, the moment she met Meowi, because she's like chowing down on this bear that's completely severed by her, and she's confronted by this frail, weak cat. Well, she ends up taking after this cat because she wants to eat it, and she doesn't want to eat it though when it's so frail and weak. So she kind of nurtures it to health by feeding it milk from a cow that she also slaughters, and grows this weird bond with the cat because she's basically fattening him up for her to eat him eventually. But it seems that Power's eventually having this cat grow on her because she goes on to talk about how she's so used to just killing anything she immediately sees that she's so used to kind of hearing screams everywhere around her from any living thing. But things are different with this cat, so she's definitely growing a bond with this cat and has some emotional connection to it by now. But unfortunately, this is when the Bat Devil pops up, who is fresh off an injury with his arm cut off, and this is when they make the whole arrangement to give Meowi back in return for some blood so he can recover. Well, we then cut to present time where Power turns to Denji and mentions how Denji pointed out earlier that it really sucks that he can't hold Pochita anymore, and she now knows what that feels like. And then the Bat Devil suddenly grabs her and swallows her whole. He's disgusted by her blood too, but it helps him regenerate his wings. So he then plans to go into the city and literally eat children because for some reason that's his favorite food. But as he's flying away, we see that Denji has actually attached himself to the Bat Devil and is consuming some of his blood to help heal his wounds. And as Denji is pulling his cord to attack the Bat Devil, he thinks back to a time when he thought he lost Pochita, where he went went to look for him all over the place, and he was so scared that Pochita had been killed by a devil or something. But when he got back home, Pochita was in the corner of their shed crying, waiting for him. So he was so excited that he literally fell asleep holding Pochita in his arms. So he kind of thinks back and says, you know, he wonders how bad Power must have felt not having Meowie with her like he had Pochita. So as soon as we cut back to the present, Denji goes full on chainsaw mode and slices off the freshly regenerated arm that the Bat Devil grew back. And they come crashing down into this building, and we just have this incredible fight sequence between Denji and the Bat Devil. I mean, I'll be honest, in episode 1, I was a little bit iffy about some of the animation in the fight scene between Denji and the Zombie Devil. I thought it was a little bit heavy on the CG, but I mean, it was an overall enjoyable experience, so I didn't really give it too much thought. The episode as a whole was amazing, so I didn't really care too much about it. But in this episode, things are a little bit different. The fight sequences just look so much smoother and more natural to me, and not so slowed down as I thought some of the parts of the first episode were. So this is definitely a breath of fresh air. This fight was incredible because we just see the Bat Devil have this back and forth with Denji, and he even tosses a car with a person in it to Denji, and to everyone's surprise, Denji does not care that there is a person in there that he feels like he needs to save or something, because he literally just whips the car right back at the Bat Devil's face. But luckily the person inside of it jumps out before he does this and sets the Bat Devil's face on fire. Well, this enrages the Bat Devil so much that he uses some kind of sonic boom attack to completely obliterate Denji and send him flying into a wall. And the Bat Devil thinks that this kills him because it literally completely shatters the cement wall that he threw him into. So he kind of starts planning his attack on humans in the city, but to his surprise, Denji walks up and kind of has his triumphant hero moment where he says that he's been patiently waiting this whole time to cop a feel, and he hasn't even done it once. So he kind of goes off into a rage and goes headlong into the Bat Devil. And then we see the Bat Devil start to get kind of scared of him. He starts to tell him to stay away, much like the Zombie Devil did in episode 1. But Denji does not care. He just starts tearing the Bat Devil to shreds and ends up just splitting him right through the guts and has blood raining down everywhere as he falls to the ground dead. And this is where the episode ends. Well, like I said, this episode was full of action and also some very crucial exposition from Makima, where she kind of explains the power system among devils in the world that they live in. I honestly think that the animation between episode 1 and episode 3 is just getting better and better and better with every episode, which is pretty awesome to see. And like I said earlier, this fight sequence between Denji and the Bat Devil was so satisfying to see animated, because, you know, for those of you that are manga readers, we know that this is a pretty epic fight and one that many people were looking forward to from the very beginning. So finally seeing it in an episode and seeing it pulled off so well by Mappa is just so refreshing, and I am so happy to be a Chainsaw Man fan right now. But what did you guys think of this episode? What did you guys think of, you know, the animation, the explanation of devils that Makima gave, or kind of this whole dynamic that Power and Denji are having? You know, let me know your thoughts in the comments. I'm very curious to know what you guys think of the series so far. And of course, if you enjoy Chainsaw Man, please make sure to subscribe and turn notifications on, because I post a video every Tuesday as soon as an episode drops. So you definitely want to have those notifications on so you can know as soon as an episode comes out, and you'll get to see me cover it here. But that's it for this one today, guys. Have a wonderful day, and I'll see you guys in the next one.